Yeah, hello ladies and gentlemen, this is BestInSlot and welcome back to our Jurassic World Evolution 2 Mod Spotlight series. Lots of very exciting stuff to check out today, really excited to dig into all of that. But before we get started, a couple of things as per usual. A disclaimer, mods can possibly break your game, particularly new species. It's unlikely, you know, unless you go and get a little crazy like I've been doing, you're probably going to be okay, but it is worth noting either way. If they do break your game, it's not my fault, it's not the mod maker's fault, and it most certainly isn't Frontier's fault. Please leave them alone. Other than that, we should be good. Osmodius is not with us this week. He's just got a new trampoline. He's very excited about it, and he's off living his best life. You know what demons are like these days. The other thing I want to say, of course, all these mods will be available for clicking on, I guess. You can follow the download links in the description down below. Go give the mod makers lots of love. They very much deserve it, putting all this hard work in for absolutely free, just to make your pretty little faces smile, you know? Right, let's get started. We're going to kick things off with one mod pack in particular. This is the exceptional looking Ambers of Africa pack made by Sweetener. So I'm just going to show you all 7 new species, 7 contained in this singular pack, starting with Jabaria. Always takes so long with the sauropods. So Jabaria, a Middle Jurassic primitive sauropod, one of the earliest sauropods from Niger, and looks really cool. Sweetness upped their game a little bit lately, must be said. Really fascinating looking sauropod. The head shape's really interesting. I love the patterning with this black splotch down here, but then it crests into the head just a little bit there. Got this banded quilling around the back of the neck and top of the skull as well. Really interesting, more of that quilling, sort of sharp points down there at the lower regions. You know, it's got some extraneous details without being overt and over the top. If you come down here, we've also got some exceptionally sharp thumb claws on the feet. Really, really interesting looking creature. It looks a little bird-like in the head, you know, with the crest like that poking out at the front, like a hornbill or something. And then, of course, we've got some inverted commas feathering there at the back. Really, really beautiful looking sauropod. We've got a lot to do today, so I'm not going to dally, but yeah, really, really big fan of that Jabaria, actually. Next up, and again, this is all the Ambers of Africa pack by Sweetener until I tell you otherwise, we have Elaphrosaurus. Should go without saying that these are all from Africa. It's always random colours and I'm just picking the one that I like the look of the most. So Elaphrosaurus, a late Jurassic Tanzanian ceratosaurian known for short hind limbs, which I don't think this is quite nailed, and a shallow chest cavity, which I think this has. So I think it probably should be lower to the ground. Like, I think these legs should probably be smaller and it should be closer to the ground. I don't know if that's possible with the rigging, but it definitely has that sort of shallow chest cavity. You know, it's quite an elongated, skinny looking creature if you just ignore the lower leg regions. But again, it looks really cool. We've got this sort of medium-sized theropod, which I always beat the drum for having more of them because they're pretty rare. Really interesting patterning. Reminds me a little bit of the Monolithosaurus a little bit. It's always a good thing. And really interesting long neck as well. And yeah, just, again, really good work. Just looks fantastic. The patterning is really good. The model is really good. Fits into the game really well. Again, I think I would have made the hind limbs smaller, but that is me based on very rudimentary research, so it's not it's not necessarily even correct, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. One thing I love about this pack, now that I'm releasing all these, because these are all African, this is the Ambers of Africa pack, you could make a really cool African themed, maybe we'll do that in our Paleo Zoo. We can do like an African themed section using these Ambers of Africa animals. That's a cool idea. Next up in that same pack we have Lurdusaurus. Looking utterly bizarre. Now that's good, it is a bizarre looking creature. So Lurdusaurus is an early Cretaceous, I'm trying to find a colour I like, this one, but stay in the light please. Stay there. A There we go. Perfect. An early Cretaceous iguanodontid from Niger. And it is weirdly shaped. It's got an abnormally small skull for an iguanodontid. It's got a really long neck, which you can see here. Definitely has a long neck compared to the other iguanodontids we've got. And it's got a very rotund torso, which you can also see. Still clearly iguanodontid. We've got those, I mean, I don't know what's going on with those forelimbs, it must be said, but we've got the, you know, the thumb claws and stuff like that. And the interesting thing is, Sweetness decided to add this quilled feathering, basal feathering kind of thing down the upper part of the neck and the lower part of the neck. It looks really interesting. Not sure if I love it, but that's okay, you know. You can't be all things to all people, as they say, but it's definitely very interesting. It's a very unique dinosaur, very much stands out in the roster, and looks utterly bizarre, and Lurdusaurus was a bizarre looking dinosaur, so I think it's an interesting idea at the very least. The final of our dinosaurs for this pack is Janenschia, or Janenschia, or Janen, probably Jan. I'm going to butcher, I don't know, this Lurdusaurus is going bonkers in the background. I'm just going to speed this up because it's a sauropod, it's going to take a million years. It's a beauty though. So here we have, as I say, Janenschia, a late Jurassic Tanzanian sauropod. Has a very convoluted history in terms of its nomenclature. To the point that I could barely follow along with it, I'm totally honest. This thing bounced around all over the place in terms of being named and classified, etc, etc. If you want to know all the details, it's honest, it was too much for me. Go check Wikipedia for yourselves. I'm not your dad, you know, do your own thing. But there we go, we've got another beautiful sauropod. I think I prefer Jabaria personally, but this one's quite cool as well. We've got very different, we've got these sort of osteoderms down there at the back along those big old, those are birthing hips if there ever was any. It's got a slightly Camarasaurus-esque sort of style to it, I think, and I think I vaguely remember Wikipedia mentioning that it had similarities to Camarasaurus. You can definitely see that in the skull shape and style. Again, really interesting skin patterning, really unique, really stands out amongst the other sauropods. And looks really happy and pleased with himself. It's kind of cute, actually. I'm a big fan of that. I do prefer the Jabaria, but this is maybe my favourite animal in the entire pack so far. I think that is an absolute beauty. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? I'm blown away with the Jabaria. But yeah, some good stuff in the Ambers pack so far. We've still got a few more to go though. We've got a pterosaur to check out next. This is Siroccopteryx. Probably. Dum dum da 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 dum dum dum. When you want to get in the light? No? Yeah, you will hate me. That's cool. Cool. There we go, that'll do. No, it won't. Decided against that. That'll do. There we go. Siroccopteryx looking fantastic there. A Middle Cretaceous Moroccan pterosaur. And it's an Anhanguarid, which I think we've talked about in the past. Basically one of the last pterosaur groups that had teeth, essentially, before they shed them. So let's talk about the design before I talk about it a bit more. Really cool, it's got some feathering on the underbelly there. Really like that. Wish more pterosaurs in the game were taking advantage of those feather options to make them look a little bit more interesting. So love that underbelly feathering. Of course, we've got those gigantic teeth, again, all splaying out in weird directions because that helps them catch fish. Lets them kind of just jut out and just skewer fish as they fly along. Looks really good, actually. People are nailing the pterosaurs. I've got so many pterosaur mods installed and they all look fantastic. And this is definitely going into the collection. Looks rough, looks ready to go, you know, looks a little bit like it would start a fight with you in a bar, but really well made and beautiful teeth, sort of. I mean, terrifying teeth, but that's okay. Yeah, it looks really good. Big fan. Love the little dewlappy little section there. What was I going to say about this? Yeah, so it's got these weird teeth. It used to hunt fishes off the coast of Africa. Today is the day I learned that fishes is a legitimate word. I honestly had no idea. And then I saw it in the article and I thought, huh, that's an official, proper, curated article that says fishes. Fishes must be a word. And looked into it. So, you know, you always say the plural fish is fish. If you've got 5 tuna, it's a group of fish. It's some fish. However, if there's 5 tuna and a salmon, as in a different species of fish present, then fishes actually becomes correct. You can still say fish, but you can also say fishes. So if you see fishes in that way, it means there's multiple species of fish. And I honestly had never heard that before in my entire life, so that was kind of a revelation for me. Thanks to Sweet Enough for my revelation. I really need to get a move on. We have a lot to do. So, we've got 2 aquatic creatures to round off this Ambers of Africa pack. First up, we have Zarafasaura. Now, if I'm honest, I could get basically no information on this thing other than it is a Upper Cretaceous Moroccan elasmosaurid. That's all you're getting from me, quite frankly. But it's just a nice looking elasmosaurid. It looks, I mean, body-wise, it's fairly similar. We've got a very short tail, which is cool because a lot of the elasmosaurids in Jurassic World Evolution 2 have unnaturally elongated tails, actually. But I like that Sweetener stuck with the very short, stumpy one. It looks weird, but, you know, closer to reality. I really like the head as well. It's got this very heavy bottom jaw, lower jaw area. The eyes are pretty awesome looking as well, it must be said. And, yeah, it's just another good-looking elasmosaurid. It looks, you know, it's not, like, humongously different, but it's different enough, especially in that skull shape, I would say. And the patterning is pretty unique as well, to really stand out amongst the others that you've got. Now, final creature, probably the one I've been most excited for. This is Onchopristis. And it looks, yeah, this is very cool. This looks fantastic. I assume it's on the Ichthyosaur rig. So Onchopristis is a, and I'm going to butcher this just so you know, it's a sire, is it sire or skyer? Skier? A Skiroranchoid? I'm going to go with that. That's probably wrong. Skiroranchoid. From Cretaceous Africa, Europe and North America. And a Skiroranchoid... Is it a ski or is it a skler? I've got SCL and I've got SCI. Oh, maybe it's skler. Scleroranchoid? God knows. Basically, they're rays. Rays with an elongated rostra. And a rostra is basically this bit here. The snout, the beak, whatever you want to call it. It's this elongated section at the front. And it has large denticles. You know, these teethy things sticking out the side of the rostra. And there's a whole group of these that all look like this, and this one is Onchopristis in particular. And it's really unique looking. Of course, we don't have anything like this in the game. It blends in really well. It kind of fits onto the Ichthyosaur rig perfectly. It's fantastic. I'm a really big fan of this. This is definitely one of the creatures I don't keep every mod I install. You know, I keep maybe 20 to 30%, the ones that I consider the best of the best and something that really adds something to the game. Not that they're not all worth looking at, and that's just my personal taste, but this is definitely going on the list. It looks really good. It's really well modelled. Blends into the game really well, and it's completely unique. And that is like it's even got the weird little ray face on the bottom, you know, where it looks like a smiley face. It's absolute nightmare fuel. I love it. Right, we still have a few more species to look at and some weird things to look at. So I need to pop back into my hatcheries and set some things up. We'll be back in a second. Okay, let's check out our final set of creatures and other things. So, a while ago, a couple of weeks ago, I showed you a mod called Scary Faces Statues, and we've been using it in our park build, because I added this huge collection, I think 20-somethings, 25 or so, statues to the game resembling different species in the game. And it was really cool for decorating your parks, and Scary Face has updated that statue now, and it now includes over 60 different statues. So if we come down to our decorations and we go into, I believe, this one, you can see we've got a few mods there, but we scroll down, yeah, there we go, bloody hell. So your options have now expanded greatly. There's a Baryonyx, I think that's new. I'm not going to know which ones are all new, but a lot of them are, let's put it that way. And it just means that if there was one creature that, you know, Albertosaurus is definitely new, I don't recognize that one. Patasaurus, yeah, this is just Atomburosaurus, basically every creature in the game. Near enough is now present in these statues. So if you wanted to decorate each exhibit you did, if you're building a park build and you want every single exhibit to have a statue of it, you know, because we don't have these really cool custom signs for each exhibit. We've got a few for the Jurassic Park dinosaurs. Now, if you use these signs instead, I mean, it's really cool stuff. You could then put these outside of the exhibit and make a really cool display. I think this is amazing. And what you meant to do with these ones, by the way, so we've got this Kronosaurus, which is obviously floating. What you would then do, if you wanted, is you would click the correct buttons, which is a scary prospect, I know, but we'll figure it out. Where is the sticks? To create like a display, basically. And that works quite well, actually. Yeah, I don't know. Really, really cool. Shout out to Scary Face. I love using these in my park builds. We've used these all the time already, and we're definitely going to do a more regular park build where we use this as decoration for each individual exhibit. I think that's going to look awesome. Right, moving on. Another thing, non-new species we're going to check out, but just a pretty cool little mod. We're going to pop down a live prey feeder here. And we're going to take a look at our goat. There it is. So, Josper, I do keep forgetting, has changed the goat, basically, and given it the new fur shader that we got from the Jurassic World Dominion expansion, you know, for the Therizinosaurus, etc., etc., the Quetzalcoatlus with its furry back. And, yeah, it just makes the goat look a lot better. It's furry. Just, yeah, why not? I think this is something Frontier should actually consider themselves, because it just makes the goat look more like an actual goat and not like a piece of Play-Doh, you know? I mean, that's just a straight-up good change. Like, I don't see why that wouldn't be in the game. It's extra work that isn't necessarily necessary, and game dev is a lot about compromises and prioritization, so I suspect it'll never happen, but yeah, I think this is one of those mods you may as well just have, because I think the goat just looks, you know, cool. It's fluffy, which is good, right? Yeah, fluffy is good. Okie dokie, so... two very cool non-species mods there. Again, I'm obsessed with these statues. We're going to check out some other cool stuff here. Before we check out these, we're going to go into here and we're going to look at our Deinonychus. So we're going to scroll up. We're going to scroll up. Did I showcase Surface? Yeah, I did. We're going to scroll up. 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 Bloody hell. Deinonychus, everyone's favourite dinosaur, cough. If we go into modified genome on our Deinonychus and go to skin colour, you'll see we now have tons of new patterns. This is the Jurassic Park Deinonychus mod by Mr. Troodon. And basically what it does is if you want your Jurassic Park Velociraptors to instead be called Deinonychus, because obviously the Jurassic Park Velociraptor is indeed based on Deinonychus. You know, the skeletal is based on Deinonychus. It was originally meant to be Deinonychus. They consulted with Backer on the design of the dinosaur. Then they decided Velociraptor sounds scarier. Well, I mean, Crichton did it and then Spielberg did as well. But basically, yeah, it adds loads of new colours, adds loads of new designs, and you can now have... So I think it's this one that I quite like. I'm just going to pop this out. I just wanted to show you the pattern selection. Yeah, basically just, you know, make sure... Velociraptor into a Deinonychus because it looks more like a Deinonychus, if you know what I mean. And that's about it. There's really it's that, and it's a bunch of new skin colours, and that's about it. But I think that's pretty cool actually. Deinonychus, there you go, and a really really interesting skin pattern as well. There's tons of really interesting colours you can check out on the mod page. But this is one of my favourites of the bunch because it just really stands out, looks really unique. I just think that's a really cool idea. A nice little throwback to the history of Jurassic Park as well. Right, so let's check out those two dinosaurs we just saw. First up is Oxalia. Oxalia? I think it's Oxalia. Either way, been blocked by a frickin' Deinonychus. Oh, this is made by Enda. E-N-D-A-H. Enda. And what a beauty she is. I wasn't sure on this one because some people have a habit on their dinosaur pages to... put a lot of filters onto the screenshots, so you don't really get a good look at what they're going for, because people want to be stylish and stuff, which I totally get. I would suggest, if you're one of those people, that you at least have a few screenshots with no filters, so we can get a good feeling of what the dinosaur looks like before we download it. But, anyways, Oxalia. Oxalia. No, it's Oxalia. It must be Oxalia. A Spinosaurid from late Cretaceous Brazil. Lots of debate whether it's a junior synonym for the African Spinosaurus aegypticus, of course. Could just be individual variation. It could be a Spinosaurus that made its way to Brazil, and then it has some individual variation going on to look differently. And there's there's papers as recent as 2020 supporting that exact argument, that it is indeed just a junior synonym for the Spinosaurus aegypticus. I believe, however, that the consensus in the community, obviously people are always going to disagree, I believe the current consensus is that it is a sister taxon and it does represent its own genus and species, and it's not a Spinosaurus aegypticus, but, you know, you never know. You really never know with paleontology. Either way, it's really well made. Of course, it's got a much more realistic interpretation of Spinosaurids, with the bouncy crest and the big, thick paddle tail going on there. Oxalia was humongous. It was near Spinosaurus in size. It is a gigantic creature, so it's really cool to have another large Spinosaurid in the game. Not something we get very often. Really interesting patterning as well. Obviously, it's got that more realistic shape. With the thick neck and the little spiking at the back just to mix things up a little bit. Yeah, really, really good work by Ender there. Looks fantastic. And big fan. Right, our last dinosaur. Yeah, and then we've got one more thing to check out. This is Titanoceratops, made by Daubeny. Put a daub on it. Oh, what a beauty. So yeah, Titanoceratops looking really cool. I love the osteoderms down there at the back, spiky ones, again mixing things up. If you're looking at this and thinking it looks similar to Pentaceratops, which it definitely does. When I looked at it on the mod page, I was like, yeah, that looks like Pentaceratops. Obviously, there's some differences here, particularly in the horns. You can see are quite different in their shaping. The crest is larger, has a really cool, interesting pattern going on there. We've got the osteoderms along the back. It should look like Pentaceratops, however, it must be said. Also, note, this thing is humongous. It's gigantic. But it should look like Pentaceratops, and I'll tell you why. So, Titanoceratops is a fairly controversial, dubious creature. It's a late Cretaceous New Mexico ceratopsid. A huge animal, as big as the largest ceratopses out there, you know, your Triceratopses and stuff like that. At around 22 feet or so long. This is a large dinosaur, it really is. Controversial animal, I say. Some believing it to just be a particularly large Pentaceratops. People believe this is in fact a Pentaceratops, it's just one that grew larger than the others and had some variation into it. And that's, again, as recent as 2020, people are suggesting that in paleontological papers. It is currently grouped in a group called Triceratopsinae, actually called a tribe containing, it's the same tribe containing Triceratops. It's dinosaurs that are closer related to Triceratops than to, I can't remember what the other ceratopsid is, but it's some other ceratopsid. And that's where Titanoceratops is right now. If I've not misunderstood this, the reason this is controversial, this grouping in Triceratopsinae, is that Titanoceratops predates the earliest member of Triceratopsinae, Eotriceratops, by about 5 million years. As in, the latest we've seen Titanoceratops is 5 million years before the earliest we've seen Eotriceratops. And Eotriceratops was for a long time regarded as the earliest member of Triceratopsinae. So, and that gap isn't accounted for. There's nothing in the middle. So it's what's called a ghost lineage, in that if this is a member of Triceratopsinae, then assumedly there has to be something plugging that 5 million year gap between Titanoceratops and Eotriceratops, but we don't have any fossil evidence for that 5 million year gap at the moment. So that then throws into doubt whether Titanoceratops would be part of that same lineage, because we can't see how it got from Titanoceratops to Eotriceratops. Does that make sense? I think I've understood that correctly. My inclination, from what I've read, is that eventually Titanoceratops may not exist. I get the feeling it may end up regarded as a large Pentaceratops, or it will still exist, but it won't be a member of Triceratopsinae. But you never know what will be discovered. You never know if there's something out there in the wilderness that's going to plug that ghost lineage that we haven't found quite yet. You never really know in paleontology. Things shift and change so much. This Oxalia, if you designed an Oxalia like this just 10 years ago, people would have thought you're absolutely bloody bonkers. So, you know, you always got to keep an open mind. One more creature to go. It is not a new species. Two more. Well, you've seen the spoiler already. This is not a new species, but it is a Liopleurodon. I think people can probably guess what this is. Because she's as beautiful as the day I lost her. Oh, yeah. Oh. Again, why does a Liopleurodon exit animation go so hard? It goes so much harder than all the others. Anyway, so this is, of course, the Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon, made by Saber the Tyrant and Game Videos for Life, bringing back that beloved, one of the more beloved paleo designs in history, I think we've got to admit. Brings it back to life in Jurassic World Evolution 2, with its famous black and white striping and its big old weird pointy head. Is the head always that pointy? Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, it looks really cool. Always does. It's a fantastic design, blends right into the game. Looks absolutely beautiful. Always a humongous fan of this thing. Look at it. What an absolute stunner you are. I think the brown is from the patterning I put over the top. I tried to pick black and white colours just to make sure, but I think it always looks black and white by default, and then the patterning adds this kind of speckled effect on the back. So if you're going to pop this out in the game and you want it to look as close to the Walking With Dinosaurs version as possible, you should probably just do default Rana and then no pattern over the top, would be my assumption. Anyways, we're going to finish off with a meme, as we often do. This is the Mermaid mod, which I think we've seen before. I vaguely recall this in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Before everything went to hell? Maybe. The Mermaid mod by Sweetener. So dramatic. I love that it's got different colours though. So yeah, I don't know what's wrong with Sweetener's brain, but Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon. mermaids. A classic combination. It's just, you know, I don't know why you'd want to. I love the idea of eventually having a cryptid pack for this game. If I was ever going to get into modding this game myself and back into my modelling, I would probably try to make something like that. So, I mean, a mermaid could be part of that cryptid pack eventually. It's a little bit My Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid? What's that bloody film called? My Little Mermaid? No idea. Compared to the cryptid version. But, I mean, it's a mermaid. It works. The rigging works. Takes a model from the game in terms of the female human, and I really have nothing else to say about it, but it's cool. I like my meme mods every now and again. So some fantastic stuff today. Shout out to Sweetener in particular, who has provided, if you include the mermaid, 8 of the new species we've looked at today. The scary face statues are phenomenal, as they always are. Really some cool new stuff by people who I've not heard a lot from in the past. Endar with the Oxalia and Darbeni with the Titanoceratops, who I've not seen too much work from in the past, but both brought exceptional new species. I love the goat. I love all of it. It's all really good stuff. Really, really cool week. And that is about it from me. So as I say, you can check out all these mods at the link down below for the Google document. Just open the document. You'll find all the links there. We'll be back tomorrow. Of course, we're expecting the reveal of the Atrociraptor tomorrow. Maybe the reveal of the entire DLC. We'll have to wait and see. I believe last time with the Pyroraptor, we didn't find out about the entire DLC. We just found out about the Pyroraptor. So it may just be Atrociraptor tomorrow. But either way, I'll bring you all the news and information right here on the channel as soon as we hear about it. And yeah, very excited to hear about all that, but very excited to check out some more mods in the meantime. Of course, we'll be back next week with everything that's happened in the next 7 days. Until then, thank you very much for joining me. Do throw me a like if you've enjoyed the video. It really helps me out. Comment down below what's your favourite mod of the bunch. What's your favourite new species? And I'll see you lovely folks very soon. Thanks for joining me. Cheers much as always. Bye-bye.
Reaching out.